Your body has a liquid that can literally numb emotional pain. It comes out of your face. And the crazy part? It's chemically different depending on whether you're chopping onions or watching the end of a heartbreaking movie. Same eyes, different tears. How is that even possible? Welcome to Briefly Science, where we ask the questions that make you realize your body is basically a walking chemistry lab with trust issues. Today, we're talking about crying, not the socially awkward part, the science part. Because your tears aren't just salty water. They're a cocktail of proteins, hormones, and natural painkillers that your brain custom makes depending on why you're crying. And yeah, that's as wild as it sounds. So let's start with the basics. Why do humans even have tears? And I don't mean the emotional kind yet. I mean the stuff that's in your eyes right now. Yeah, right now. You've got tears coating your eyeballs as you listen to this. Sorry if that makes you uncomfortable, but it's true. These are called basal tears. They're your eye's oil change. Every time you blink, you're spreading a thin layer of moisture across your cornea to keep it from drying out like a raisin. Without them, your vision gets blurry, your eyes start burning. Things get bad fast. Basal tears are basically your eyeball's personal hydration system, and they're working 24/7 without you even noticing. But here's where it gets interesting. Your tears aren't just water. They're 3 layers. 3. Your body is over-engineering your eyeball maintenance like it's building a spaceship. The outer layer is oil. Yeah, oil. Produced by tiny glands in your eyelids. This keeps the tears from evaporating too fast. The middle layer is the watery part, full of salts and proteins. And the inner layer? That's mucus, straight up mucus, clinging to your eyeball, keeping everything in place. Your eyes are basically a self-lubricating biological machine. Respect. Now let's talk about the second type of tears, reflex tears. These are the ones that show up when something irritates your eyes. Dust, smoke, onions. That one friend who insists on wearing way too much cologne. Your body detects the irritation and goes, nope, flush it out. Activate the eye sprinklers. And onions? Oh, onions are diabolical. When you cut an onion, you're breaking its cells. Those cells release an enzyme that reacts with amino acids in the onion to create a gas. That gas floats up into your eyes and reacts with the water in your tears to form sulfuric acid. Yeah, acid. Your eyes are being mildly attacked by chemistry, and your body's response is to flood the area with tears to dilute and wash away the threat. It's biological warfare happening on your cutting board, and you lose every time. But here's the thing about reflex tears. They're different from basal tears. They come out faster, they're more watery, they're designed for one job: emergency eye flushing. Your body doesn't waste time adding extra ingredients. It just dumps liquid and hopes for the best. Emotional tears, though? That's where your body gets fancy. Weird fact number 1. Emotional tears have a completely different chemical composition than reflex tears. We're not talking a little different. We're talking your body is literally brewing a custom potion depending on your feelings. Emotional tears contain higher levels of protein. They contain stress hormones like cortisol and adrenocorticotropic hormone. And here's the kicker. They contain natural painkillers, specifically leucine and enkephalin, an endorphin that acts like morphine in your body. Your brain is dosing you with feel-good chemicals through your tears. Crying isn't just an emotional release. It's pharmaceutical-grade self-medication. Your body knows you're in distress, so it manufactures a substance that literally makes you feel better, and then pushes it out of your face. That's not poetic. That's biochemistry. And this explains why you feel better after a good cry. It's not just catharsis, it's chemical. Your body flushed out stress hormones and replaced them with natural pain relief. You're not being dramatic. You're being medicated by your own tear ducts. But why? Why would evolution design humans to leak when they're sad? What's the survival advantage of advertising your emotional state to everyone around you? Seems like a terrible idea, right? If you're weak or vulnerable, the last thing you want is to broadcast that to potential threats. Except, we're social animals. And for social animals, vulnerability isn't always a weakness. Sometimes it's a signal. Crying tells the people around you, I need help. I'm not okay. Please care about me. It's a distress call. And for early humans living in tight-knit groups, that signal was crucial. If you're injured, if you're grieving, if you're overwhelmed, your group needs to know so they can support you. Babies figured this out immediately. They can't talk. They can't explain what's wrong. So they cry. Loud, annoying, impossible to ignore. And it works. Adults come running. The baby gets fed, changed, comforted. Crying is the ultimate communication hack for creatures that can't use words yet. But adults cry too. And here's where it gets complicated. Because unlike babies, we have language. We can say, I'm sad, or I'm hurt, or I need support. So why do we still cry? Why hasn't evolution phased it out? The answer might be trust. Words can lie. You can say you're fine when you're not. You can fake confidence. You can hide pain. But crying? Crying is hard to fake convincingly. Real tears come with physical symptoms. Red eyes, a puffy face, that weird hiccup breathing thing. Your body is giving involuntary evidence of your emotional state. And that honesty, that builds trust. When someone cries in front of you, you know they're not putting on a show. They're genuinely struggling. And that vulnerability creates connection. It signals, I trust you enough to be real with you. It's intimacy without words. Which is why crying in front of the wrong person feels so violating. You've shown them something you can't take back. You've given them proof of your inner state. And if they don't respond with care, that's betrayal on a biological level. Now let's talk about gender for a second. Because yeah, there's a difference. Women cry more than men on average. And before anyone jumps in with, society tells men not to cry, sure, that's part of it. But there's also biology. Women have higher levels of prolactin, a hormone that's linked to emotional tears. They also have shallower tear ducts, which means tears overflow more easily. Men's tear ducts are literally shaped differently, making it harder for tears to spill out. So yes, social conditioning plays a role. But also, men's eyes are built like they're trying to hoard tears like a dragon hoarding gold. It's structural. Weird fact number 2. Humans are the only animals that cry emotional tears. Yeah, the only ones. Other animals produce tears for eye maintenance and irritation. But crying because they're sad? Nope. That's uniquely human. Even our closest relatives, chimps, bonobos, gorillas, they don't do it. Why? Nobody knows for sure. One theory is that it's tied to our complex social structures and language. We needed another layer of communication, something that transcends words, and emotional crying filled that gap. Another theory is that it's connected to our upright posture. When we stood up, our faces became more visible. Tears became a signal that others could see from a distance. Or maybe it's just a weird evolutionary accident that stuck around because it happened to be useful. Evolution doesn't always have a master plan. Sometimes it just throws stuff at the wall and sees what sticks. But here's what we do know. Emotional crying activates the parasympathetic nervous system. That's your rest and digest mode, the opposite of fight or flight. When you cry, your body is forcing itself to calm down. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. You're basically hitting a biological reset button. And this is why holding back tears feels so awful. You're fighting your body's natural calming mechanism. You're keeping stress hormones trapped inside instead of letting them flush out. You're refusing the painkiller your brain is trying to give you. No wonder it makes you feel worse. Let's talk about crocodile tears for a second. You know, fake crying. Turns out the phrase comes from an ancient belief that crocodiles cry while eating their prey. Which, they don't, obviously. But they do produce tears while eating. Not because they're sad about it, but because the act of chomping down creates pressure in their sinuses that activates their tear glands. It's mechanical, not emotional. But humans? We can fake cry. Sort of. We can force tears by thinking sad thoughts or physically irritating our eyes. But fake emotional crying is hard to sustain because it requires conscious effort. Real crying happens automatically. Your body takes over, you lose control, and that loss of control is part of what makes it genuine. Weird fact number 3, you can actually run out of tears, temporarily. If you cry for a long time, your tear glands can get exhausted and stop producing as much fluid. You get that dry, painful, burning sensation even though you're still emotionally wrecked. Your body is like, look, I gave you everything I had. We're tapped out. You're on your own now. It's temporary though. Your glands recover after a bit. Hydration helps, which is why people tell you to drink water after crying. Not just because you lost fluids, but because your tear ducts need to restock the inventory. Here's something else. Not all crying is sad. People cry when they're happy, when they're relieved, when they're overwhelmed by beauty or gratitude or awe. Same tears, different emotions. Why? Because emotional tears aren't about one specific feeling. They're about intensity. When your emotional system gets overloaded, crying is the release valve. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative intensity. Your brain hits a threshold and goes, okay, we need to discharge some of this energy, and opens the floodgates. It's why people cry at weddings, at graduations, when their sports team wins, when they see something beautiful, when they reunite with someone they love. The emotion is too big to contain, so it spills out, literally. And that's kind of amazing. Your body has a built-in mechanism for handling the fact that feelings can be too much. It doesn't judge. It doesn't ask if you're being rational. It just goes, you're maxed out. Let me help. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people can't cry. Not because they're emotionally stunted, but because of medical conditions or medications that affect tear production, and they report feeling worse. They describe a sense of emotional constipation. The feelings are there, but there's no release, no flushing of stress hormones, no natural painkillers, just stuck. Which tells us that crying isn't weakness, it's maintenance. It's how your body processes overwhelming emotions and returns to baseline. People who can't cry aren't stronger. They're missing a tool, and that makes everything harder. So if you're someone who cries easily, that's not a flaw. That's your body being really good at emotional regulation. You're not too sensitive. You're efficiently processing feelings before they build up into something worse. You're basically doing preventive maintenance on your mental health. And if you're someone who doesn't cry much, that's fine too. Everyone's system is different. But don't mistake not crying for not feeling. And don't shame people who do cry. They're not being dramatic. They're being human. Here's the thing. In a world that's constantly telling us to be strong, to keep it together, to not show weakness, crying is an act of biological rebellion. It's your body saying, actually no, we're going to feel this. We're going to process this. We're going to take care of ourselves whether you like it or not. And maybe that's what makes crying so powerful. It's involuntary honesty. It's your body overriding your social programming and doing what it knows is right. It's proof that beneath all the masks and defenses and carefully constructed personas, you're still human, still vulnerable, still real. So the next time you cry, whether it's from chopping onions or watching a movie or dealing with actual life stuff, remember this: your tears are a chemical masterpiece, a 3-layer biological miracle coating your eyes, a custom-blended painkiller manufactured on demand, a signal of trust and vulnerability that built human civilization. You're not leaking, you're functioning exactly as designed. If your brain just soaked up that knowledge like a sponge and you're sitting there thinking, wait, my body is cooler than I thought, then you need to subscribe, not for me, for your neurons. They're hungry for more fascinating science that makes you see yourself differently. Feed them. Join the Briefly Science crew. We're out here making you appreciate your weird, beautiful, perfectly engineered human body. One mind-blowing fact at a time. Your tear ducts would want you to.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Subscribe now!